How do you know this is a quadratic relation? Just by giving the equation. Noel? Good, it has a squared term. Automatically we know that this has to be quadratic, okay? So we're going to be analyzing this and we're going to be figuring out all the features of it. I'm going to ask you one thing right now. Is there a coefficient of x squared? Is there a number in front of x squared? We can put a 1 there, right? Is it a positive x squared or is it a negative x squared? What does a positive value in front of the x squared, so we call this a, I don't know if you remember this from earlier in the year. If a is positive, does the parabola open up or down? Who remembers? If a is positive, yes, it opens up. So it looks like this. So right away we know, just by looking at this equation, our parabola is going to open up. If it opens up, does it have a maximum or minimum value? Excellent. Minimum value. I want you to copy this down, please. Okay? So now I'm going to ask you, what is the y-intercept? So we're not graphing this, but you're going to figure out this information from the equation. How do you know when a parabola hits the y-axis? This is x. How do we know when a point hits the y-axis? What does the x value have to be? Let's pretend this is 1, 2, 3, 4. How would you label this point? What would it be labeled as? 0, 4. When a point hits the y-axis, what value has to be 0? Any point that I put on this y-axis will be labeled as 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3, 0, 4, 0, 6, whatever, okay? So if I'm asking you to look at this equation and figure out the y-intercept, what should you make x? What should x be equal to figure out what the y-intercept is? We have to set x equal to, only one person knows the answer. Yes? Good, so we have to set x equal to 0. So if x is 0, then the y value will be the y-intercept, right? Okay, so instead of writing x squared, I'm going to write 0 squared plus 2 times what? 0 minus 15. What is 0 times 0? What is 2 times 0? What is 0? Take away 15? Negative 15. Okay, so therefore, I want you to copy this down. The y-intercept equals 0, negative 15. Okay, look at the equation again. You don't even have to do all that. This is A is 1, this is B, and this is C. C is your y-intercept. The number that is by itself, so the constant term, is your y-intercept. I didn't need to do all that work, but I wanted to show you why that works. If we make this 0, 0, 0, and then negative 15. The y-intercept is negative 15 because we made x equal to 0. Okay, so now we are looking for the x-intercepts. Okay? To find the x-intercepts, the first thing you have to do is factor. Okay, this is back to what we okay? We have to factor. We know there's no greatest common factor. It's not a difference of squares, so we're going to use the factor sum. What are some factors of negative 15? What times what gives you negative 15? 1. Positive 1 times negative 15 is negative 15. Okay, does that equal 2? 3 and 5. Positive 3 and negative 5. Okay, because one has to be positive, one has to be negative, because it has to equal a negative. What is 3 plus negative 5? Negative 2. So that didn't work. So what do you think you should do with the signs? Good. Negative 3. What is negative 3 plus 5? Positive 2. Okay? Good. So how do we write this in factored form? X minus 3 and x plus 5. Now I've asked you to find the x-intercept. So the first thing we have to do is factor. When we found the y-intercept, we knew that x had to be 0, right? Correct? To find the x-intercepts, which value has to be 0 then? y has to be 0. Because if we go back and look at a graph, okay, if I want to label these 2 points, let's say this is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Where is this point located? 2, 0. Where is this point located? 7, 0. Your y value has to be 0 or it won't hit the x-axis. So we're trying to find the x-intercepts, okay? So I have x minus 3. I want you to write it out like this. X minus 3 equals 0. I'm going to make y 0. And we have x plus 5 equals, we're making y 0. X minus 3 equals 0 and x plus 5 equals 0. Once you find the 2 factors, set them both equal to 0. Can you solve for x now? If x take away 3 equals 0, what is x equal to? What take away 3 equals 0? X equals 3 and x equals, what's the opposite of plus 5? Minus 5. Therefore, the x-intercepts are located at 3, 0 and negative 5, 0. The x-intercepts are 3 and negative 5. You can write it like that, or you can put 3 and negative 5. So we know the y-intercept is negative 15. 1, 2, 3 is the x-intercept, and 1, 2, 3, 4, negative 5 is the x-intercept. So it's going to look something like this. Okay, I'm not drawing a very good example, but now we have to figure out the axis of symmetry, and then we're going to figure out the vertex. So let's start with the axis of symmetry. Once we have our x-intercepts, what do you know about the axis of symmetry? The x-intercepts are like the outside of the parabola, right? Where is the axis of symmetry located in relation to those? In the middle. Excellent, in the middle. So if we add negative 5 plus 3, and then I divide by what to find out the middle of that? Divide by 2, halfway between negative 5 and 3. What is negative 5 plus 3? Negative 5 plus 3 is 2. What's 2 divided by 2? So I know that the axis of symmetry has to be, I did not draw this properly, okay, here. So the vertex actually passes through here. This drawing is terrible. Okay, let me redraw this. Sorry about that. This was wrong. That's why. Okay, so it's negative 1. So the axis of symmetry is here. That makes more sense. We forgot the negative. Negative 1, okay? The axis of symmetry is negative 1. Now I need to figure out where's the vertex. I know the vertex is located at negative 1 and something. I don't know how far down this has to go. So we have to figure that out, right? Okay, so finding the axis of symmetry, let's call it AOS. So to find the axis of symmetry, we take the 2 x-intercepts, right? We have to add them together. So in this case, it would be negative 5 plus 3 divided by 2. Negative 5 plus 3 is 2 divided by 2 equals 1. So x, the axis of symmetry, equals 1. That's the halfway point, yes. Negative 5 plus 3 is negative 2. Yes, thank you. It should be negative 1. Excellent. That's why it looked horrible in the picture. Thank you. What do you remember about an axis of symmetry? So let me just draw a little graph here. What does the axis of symmetry pass through on a parabola? What does it pass through? What is that point called? The axis of symmetry goes through the vertex, right? So we're trying to figure out the vertex. So we're going to take our equation, y equals x squared plus 2x minus 15. And I want to know the y value of the vertex. I already know the x value of the vertex. I know the vertex has to be located at negative 1 and something, because the axis of symmetry is part of the vertex, right? We know the x value of the vertex. Can we plug it in and figure out the y value of the vertex? Do that right now then. Plug in the... Okay. So to find the question will ask you, find the vertex, so you plug in the axis of symmetry, so in this case it's the x value, the axis of symmetry is your x value, right? X is -1, and solve for y. So let's get our equation, x squared plus 2x minus 15. We're gonna replace x with -1 because that is our x value of the vertex. Replace x with -1 and solve. Use BEDMAS. What is -1 squared? -1 times -1 is +1. What's 2 times -1? Take away 15. What is y equal to? -16. So therefore, where's the vertex located then? Where's the vertex located? Lee? Where's the vertex located? Stacy? What's the x value of the vertex? Your axis of symmetry is your x value of the vertex. Your axis of symmetry goes through the vertex. What's the y value of the vertex? -16.